Well, let's talk about the next level then, the E, the executing in the effective edge. Talk about executing.
I think the biggest piece about executing is that we're really not paid based on how much time we spend in email. We're not paid based on how many times we open up an email or how many times we move our paper stack from the northeast to the southwest corner of our desk. What we're paid for is certain key deliverables, and we want to make sure that we are connecting the specific actions that we take to those key deliverables. And it's easy, Peter Drucker, the forest and the trees. You've got to be able to see your forest and see where the trees are and see the distinction between the two. And I think many of us get caught in the weeds or in the little grass that's growing, which is sort of get caught in our email box, as opposed to stepping back and looking at the big picture. So the executing is having a system that contains our life's commitment that we can proactively and consciously choose and act on to achieve more success and accomplishment. And just that feeling of knowing that we're getting the right thing done at the right time.
The effective edge, emptying, deciding, grouping, and executing. It's a lot of stuff to acclimate to understand, to comprehend, and I think there's a big barrier to entry. Everybody would answer the question, do you want to be more organized and more efficient? Everybody would say yes. The barrier to entry is it seems like an undaunting task. It is overwhelming. How in the world do we get started?
One of my I'm from Texas, and one of the sayings we have here is if you always do what you always done, you always get what you always got. And while that is not grammatically correct, it is that we have to do something different. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And we no longer have the capacity to take our Saturday mornings and our Sunday afternoons to go to work and get organized. We need to do it in the time, in the moment. And so the place where I always recommend people start is small. So start with maybe it's that they decide to stop holding things in their head, which is one of the things that runs counterintuitive. Oh, I won't write that down. I'll just put it in my head. And it's a little bit like the glass being full, and we have to empty the glass just a little bit to create some room. And for most of us, our heads are just swimming. And part of what they're swimming with is not strategy and problem solving and finding client workarounds. It's repeating over and over their to-do list in their head. So if we can calm that down by having them begin to write stuff in their head and keep it and put it into the systems instead of their head, that'll create some room so that they can take on other things.
You devote an entire chapter to the mind being like water and the knack of emptying your mind. How do you do that effectively?
Well, I think that's what I just said is that definitely the biggest start. The concept of mind like water is a martial arts term, and it's the idea of if you imagine a pond and it's really smooth like glass, and if you toss a pebble in the pond, it ripples, creates small ripples, and it comes back to calm. And if you toss a big boulder in it, the splashes get crazy, and then it goes back to ripples, and then eventually goes back to calm. So the pond appropriately responds to what's presented. In our lives, many of us have choppy ponds to begin with. And so we hear people that say, some sort of pebble lands in their world, and they're going crazy. They're panicking. They're being short with people. They're overreacting. And yet at the same time, somebody tosses a boulder, something that they really should pay attention to. And they don't notice it because it looks like everything else. So the idea of calming your pond is definitely one of the first places that we recommend for the barrier of entry.
The other concept is the weekly recharge, and I found that to be very helpful. Talk a little bit about the weekly recharge, which is kind of the mind-emptying exercise, but yet we're doing a weekly event, basically.
I liken the weekly recharge to what a pilot does when they land their plane. They look, they kick the tires, they check the underpinnings, they check the instrumentation panels, they walk up and down the aisles, they visit with the crew and staff to look at the plane, they review the log, and when that is complete, they can actually fly their plane fully. And they can fly at 50,000 feet if they need to fly at 50 or 30, but they're not limited in any way by how they fly. The weekly recharge is our ability to kick the tires. And we all know, every business that I have the privilege of working with has operational systems, so financial, HR, learning, legal, customer interface. And so each of those systems have to be recharged, updated, backed up, purged, and the same holds true with the system for how we manage ourselves. That it needs to be sort of stopped and reviewed and backed up and changed and tweaked so that when we take off and fly again, we can fly at 50,000 or 30,000. We have a choice as opposed to most of us sort of bleed 1 week into the next, 1 day into the next, 1 month into the next, 1 year into the next, and we don't have that crisp, clear focus and intention about what we want to create and what our actions need to look like and what they are even.